I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. First order of business is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on an item not on the agenda? And if you would come up, please state your name and address so our clerk can get it down.
William Anderson, 77 French Road, Bolton, Connecticut.
Would you come just a little closer to the mic so I can pick you up?
How's that, we good?
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
William Anderson, 77 French Road, Bolton, Connecticut, Chairman of the Economic Development Commission. Just want to take a few minutes of your time. The Economic Development Commission wishes to exchange information with the Board of Selectmen on a quarterly basis, keep you up to date on to what we're doing, our accomplishments, and what your priorities are, and share that information. So the EDC has established a mission statement. The Bolton EDC is committed to fostering a pro-business environment which encourages a sustainable and diverse tax base, fostering a strong local economy while preserving the unique character and quality of life of Bolton. Our responsibilities provide the Board of Selectmen on matters relating to business development and economic development, facilitate communication between businesses and town officials, provide an environment that retains and fosters expansion of current business, and attract new business to the town. So a few of the things that we have accomplished, we have updated our webpage. We have a Bolton Business Yellow Pages, which is just a filter of the grand list of tax-paying businesses in town. And what we're trying to do is populate that group with emails so we can communicate with the business environment on priority topics. Two of the topics that were very successful in communicating with the business environment was mustering up support for the repeal of the cistern regulation and to change the drive-through regulation to allow businesses other than banks and pharmacies. So, we would like to establish our priorities and make sure they're in line with your priorities and share that information quarterly. A lot of ideas should be coming from the Plan of Conservation of Development. Our commission, we are members of the Tolland Chamber of Commerce. Our members do attend some of those events. And they do have one event where it's just representatives from the towns and they discuss what's going on in town. Unfortunately, we really don't know what's going on in our own town, which is kind of tragic. So we've made some changes. We're requesting a report of zoning applications and building applications from the building department on a monthly basis prior to our meeting so we can see what has happened, but we still have no forward-looking information as to what new businesses have come into the town and are acquiring about doing business in this town. So we're hoping to change that.
Okay.
Any suggestions, comments, feedback at this time for us?
I would just like to say one thing, that one of the reasons we have public comment is just that we invite your board and any other board to come before us if there's an issue or something occurs, and it's not just your board or any other board had an issue that they feel it's important to come before the board. That's why we have that beginning session, and we're rather, you've sat through several of them, we're rather accommodating on that. There are times when public comment is the majority of our meetings. So I just want to make that clear as part of our communications with your board. And we're pleased to see your board has really become such an active board. That's exciting, and I think some of the things we can share. I mean, there are some inquiries that are made that are confidential.
We understand that.
We understand. Okay, as long as you appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as once we feel there's a serious move on our part, Patrice has been a very good conduit of getting this information out, and we can probably set up a conduit there so that between your board and us. I think if there's someone handling all these things, that's who really initially would work best with your
Right.
board.
So one thing we're looking for specifically are any incentives the town is willing to publish. Now, I know at one point in time on the webpage, I'm not sure what it says exactly right now, but there were some property tax incentives on a case-by-case basis. That may be true, but that doesn't do anything for us. The last thing we want to do is make an offer or mention something to a prospective business that's not our business in doing so, and send them some incorrect information.
Right.
So we'd like to know, are there some incentives that can be disseminated and discussed publicly with anybody? That would be helpful, because really, we're in competition with the surrounding towns around us. And, what do businesses need for the competition? They need resources, they need a labor pool, taxes, property taxes come into play, transportation comes into play. So we have to be competitive with the surrounding towns. So that's kind of the information we're looking for. What can we do that's better than the surrounding towns to attract business here?
Yeah, our policy in the past has not been, it's not an open invitation on tax benefits.
Okay.
As in the past, and we've utilized this carefully because it's taxpayer dollars that we're either giving away or
Right.
alluding to, but if a business or company is looking to move here and making inquiries, and if they ask, it's something that we will consider and simply not toss away. But there isn't an open policy to anybody moving in here, we're going to give you a tax break. No.
Okay.
It's,
And there are restrictions by statute.
I've read the statutes. I'm
Right.
very familiar with
they
it.
are, but there are there. And it becomes a conversation amongst, it's the board that makes that decision. And it's 5 people making this decision. And
So we're free to tell a prospective business to come talk to the town, but
Correct.
don't make any
Exactly.
mention of any numbers.
Right.
Okay.
And,
Fair enough.
we can't make any promises
Okay.
in advance.
All right, excellent. Any other comments you have for us?
I'm so glad that your commission is being active, proactive, and trying to seek out businesses and to help them. And I encourage you to stay individually in touch if you can, and help shepherd businesses through the application process.
Right.
Try to maybe offering individual help if you feel like they're hitting obstacles.
Yep.
Sometimes just having somebody in Bolton that's not involved in the permit process to share information with could help.
You have to understand the situation. In Connecticut, and I'm a financial planner by trade, so I have a lot of clients that are expanding their business, and so I have a lot of situations where it's more advantageous for a business, if they need to double the size of their business, it's just cheaper to pick up and move to a different business location.
Right.
Just with the building code alone. Never mind if you tack on a local regulation. I'll use the cistern for an example. It's gone, but it was very burdensome. So any local regulation that is above and beyond building code and federal, regulation makes it even that much harder to expand a business. Now, if someone has a vacant lot in town and it's a commercial lot and the owner has no choice but to lower the price of the property until a businessman comes in and buys it and puts up a building. So they're kind of stuck with what they have. But it's a very difficult environment to keep a business in town that is expanding. We're very lucky with Simon Eyes. A couple other businesses we weren't so lucky with. So,
Sure,
okay.
when you can go out and buy a warehouse at 50 cents on the dollar, building it, you have no choice.
Exactly, right. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? This time, yes.
Question first.
Want to come up, please give your name.
Here's the question first. Arlene Fiano. Is
We need
Heritage,
your name first, so.
Arlene Fiano.
Thank you, Arlene.
6 Bayberry. Is Heritage Farm on a subcommittee report, or is there?
It's under properties and facilities, but if you have a question,
Well, I can wait till then.
go ahead. Now's a good time. You don't have to hang around because it's at the very end.
Okay. I was up there today and very pleased seeing all the work that's going on, and it looked as though they are working on the, I don't know what you call the front part, the old shed. And at one point, the Heritage Farm Commission had talked about encouraging a possible gathering space that was under the weather. And I didn't know if, at this point in time, while things are being put back together and redone, if it would be possible to explore that option. We feel as though, well, I can't speak for the commission, but there was talk that we were hoping that at some point we could have a space that would be for a storyboard or a place to gather when groups are up there using it that was out of the weather. And I didn't realize that that part of the barn was going to be part of this project. So I apologize for springing this on you last minute.
I can respond to that, Arlene. The current plan is to put the doors that were there before back rather than to rebuild the doors, with the hope that eventually that will be an open space. But at this point, it's just being rebuilt, so it potentially can be. And at worst-case scenario, those doors will open.
Is
and
it getting
be
a
able to
new
be-
roof and a new,
It's the
Yes.
beam right above those doors.
is rotten?
Is highly deteriorated. How's that for a phrase? Yes. And so the additional scope of work, that was one of the alternates that we had put in to utilize some of that town funding to address at this point in time.
Wasn't there a grant, didn't we apply for a $5,000?
We did, but
grant?
we never received that cash.
No.
The grant, before we received the cash, the grant program was dissolved.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
So basically, what we're doing is, we're trying to utilize what we have in, between our insurances and what funds we have to maximize what we can do there. And unfortunately, as any type of restoration project, you have to hold some in reserve, because there, as we've discovered, there's always a few hidden things that occur, and we want to be able to deal with all those issues. Any other, Sandy, is that covered? Okay. Anyone else? Yes,
I just have a quick question that,
you got to give your name, please.
Sylvia Olenpur, 48 Stonehenge
Sylvia.
Lane. The community connectivity program, I don't see that listed here, but I just didn't, I know that's on the minutes from last meeting.
Yep.
Just have a quick question or statement or
Nope. Good time.
good timing. I just wanted to say that I'm glad that it's listed here, and I was wondering if you could provide an update. I'm glad that it's moving forward. I know there's a deadline in March, and if there is to be community people involved in this effort, I would volunteer my services for that, knowing that northern part of town and this part of town very well. And also, I'd just like to reiterate my support, as I did at the last meeting, for this whole process, and I'm glad that it's taking, I hope that it's, I know there's a deadline in March. Is that something that's realistic to make?
Oh, it's not actually even an application, it's more of a data form asking about different things. It's very straightforward and simple.
Yeah,
We
I was going to do it on the
we
property facility.
do not think we'll probably actually even need to do any much research of any kind to be able to fill out this form. It's pretty generic.
Okay.
And then,
Will there be
The
town
goal
people
is-
to need it in terms of,
no, what,
Working-
if there
volunteering?
is, thank you for volunteering,
Okay.
we'll certainly
We
keep that
have
in
you on our
mind.
call list.
okay,
Yes.
thank you.
We never turn away a volunteer. But that, yeah, we were going to briefly just go over that down under properties, but since you brought it up, we have begun the process. So once we're at a stage that if and when we need people, obviously, I know Gwen she's been an applicant, she mentioned it to me a couple of weeks ago, and then we canceled the meeting.
Months ago.
Yeah. but-
November. Do you remember? As soon as the program was announced.
Yeah.
I let you
We
know
were
about
gonna put it
that.
on, and then our meeting got canceled anyhow. But we did go ahead and proceed with it. It sounded like, I mean, everything just sounded good. We didn't want to wait, so we moved. Anyone else? If not, I'm going to go on. Oh, you do? I'm sorry. No, you can, why not?
Yeah.
Well, you can wait, because
Next item on the agenda.
that's the
so-
first item on the agenda, so.
After minutes.
So we might be able to answer your question before you ask it, so. It'll be the first item up, we're just going through the minutes. Item 3A is approval of the January 13th special meeting.
So moved. Seconded.
Of made and second. Any comments, questions, additions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting those, did you have?
Nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know, I usually do, though.
I'm getting gun-shy,
I
Glenn.
know, I know.
If not, all in favor of adopting the motions as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. Item 3B, which is the regular meeting, which was moved to January 19th. Let me first start with a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Second, motion's made second. Now, comments, questions?
Yeah, I would just like the minutes to reflect that I arrived at 7:20. That would explain why the votes were 3-0-0 and then all of a sudden started being 4-0-0.
Yeah, that's good, that was my question, too.
So moved. I mean, the maker and the second,
Yep.
good with that? Okay. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none?
I-
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do. Mike, do you want to say anything about, your name is misspelled?
Oh, I didn't,
I thought you were going to mention that. So it's Aramita. No.
yeah.
Didn't even catch that.
Nope, I didn't either.
Come up
No,
with-
I didn't
I
want
just looked for Mike, I never go beyond.
Yeah, I
that.
didn't. I just
Okay,
read.
thank you. With that correction, all in favor of adopting the minutes as corrected, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay, motion carries.
Oh, I'm sorry, I should probably abstain, since I was out of the country and didn't
Yes.
attend the meeting.
Yep, abstention,
So I'll
be one.
abstain.
So motion carries. Approved 4 votes and 1 abstention. And finally, 3C, which is adopting of the minutes of the special meeting on January 26th.
So moved. And second.
Seconded. Comments? Not all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, motion carries.
I'm abstaining, I wasn't
And
there.
and 1 abstention. On to correspondence, unless something snuck in there. Unfinished business, none. We'll go on to new business, Charter Oak Greenway. A number of things. In your packets was, copies of the petitions that were received, Patrice received, and the headings on it. We've also have received a number of,
Joyce, do you have extra copies of those?
The-
Wasn't in the packet that was sent to us by email.
Thank you.
those two. No, mine
Can't
didn't come
explain
through
that.
either. No, mine didn't come through either. That's in the packet. But since most of you are here on that, just to make a report as from 2 weeks ago, the committee has met, and as we stated before, completion of the study would be the, actually surveying the north side of the, Route 44 from Quarry Road to Coventry line. And one of the issues that we discovered early on, there were discrepancies as to where property lines were. Since we had some remaining funds on there, we felt we might as well, let's use them for something that our residents and businesses can benefit from. So we're having that, the rest of those grant funds, we're going to have that surveyed, and that survey data will be available for any resident along that side of the highway. So if there's a question as to where your boundary line, as it affects the state right-of-way, in some cases, we had a discrepancy of 8 feet from drawings into where a boundary line was thought to be to where the state marker is. So that's ongoing. That'll be several months, it really depends on the weather before that's going to be completed, but once that is completed, we'll, we have our email, and I believe you're all on it. If not, you should be. We can notify you so that that data can be available to you all. That's where we are at this point, and we did receive a number of questions, and I thought we had discussed them at the various meetings. And one of them had to do with funding and financing, et cetera. And the question is, is the town applying for a grant? The answer to that is no. Is the town putting in any additional funds? The answer to that is no. The only thing we're doing is completing, we're utilizing the funds we had in the initial grant. We had a bit more on that, and so that's why we decided to use that to do that survey. At this stage of the game, what we're looking at is for this eventually will become a part of the study that's being done on the Route 404 corridor. And that's just beginning, and when we're completed, the committee hopes to, will give this, what we've done, to them, so that so that can be a part of their study. And they'll be eventually will make recommendations to DOT as to realignment and reconstruction and safety improvements and traffic enhancement improvements on 44. As part of that, as we said before, the state now on any one of these projects, everything is looked at as multimodal. That means other than just vehicular traffic. So whatever is, when that 44 gets, gets done to it, those issues will be a part of it. Whether it becomes if you will, bike traffic and pedestrian become either part of the highway as transportation, or as what our study came up, more of a recreational type, that will be a DOT decision. One of the reasons and I don't think we really made this clear, one of the reasons that the board and the committee decided to really look at this thing, because a couple of years ago, the state started talking around, thinking about where they're going to be doing something really along the 44, and we felt that it was important that in this multimodal issue was going to be very much a part of it. There's no question about that. We wanted to get a jump on that. And why do we want to do that? Because we don't want to be in a position where the state, all of a sudden the state just dumps us on it, and here we are. We being the town, and we being the residents in the town. We obviously have stimulated a tremendous amount of interest, be it both positive and, if you will, negative. But it's important that we do this now, because waiting for the state to come up with something and then having those people along the way react is too late. It's now, and it's now in the planning process, because this process will continue. When this study on 44 progresses, they'll be having hearings. It'll be a while. I mean, we're at the infancy on this, but those hearings will be looking at the same issues that our study looked at. So it's important that you all know where you are, what you are, and understand what's going on, as we, the town officials, are. I just want to make that point. That this morning we did we'll be broadcasting what's your program?
Town Administrator's
Town Administrator,
Report.
which is a public access that's on it's going to be Tuesday.
February 16th from 10:30 to 11 a.m. or after that date, if you don't have Comcast, you can actually go on the Community Voice Channel website and can watch it. But it was strictly on the possible extension of the Greenway.
Yeah.
It's a half-hour show.
And obviously,
Was that you, Bob?
it was me.
And Patrice,
We were being interviewed, so we brought, what we did is we put
Was it
the,
February 16th or January 16th?
February.
It will be February 16th.
yes.
Yeah, it
Did I say
hasn't. It hasn't been done.
January?
Several slides which showed the pathways were on there, and basically what I just explained to you is, in essence, our discussion, was to kind of give a history and where we are.
We took slides from the PowerPoint presentation that was given at the informational meeting, and actually, even that entire, from the last meeting, January 7th, that entire PowerPoint presentation is on the town's website, if you want to look at it there.
So that's where we are, and now,
If I could just
Please.
add one thing, that it's really the Trails Committee that has been getting all of these emails through Patrice Carson, and as those come in, she's been responding and keeping track of them. The Board of Selectmen as a whole is going to get all of them at one time, rather than trying to track who got sent this, who got sent that. So I just want to clarify that they're all going to come to the Board of Selectmen, but they'll come as a packet.
and Gwen and I are on the committee. We've been working 2 years on this particular project. And in today's program, I was there and I wanted to have Patrice, because she has been the conduit receiving all this material. So important that we try to address as many of the concerns that you all, either here or folks who've sent in, have. But quite frankly, this is going to be ongoing. I'm sure there'll be more questions as time goes on in moving forward. And as we stated in the past, we want to be as upfront with you as we possibly can. So if you have any further questions, we'll be happy to answer them. And since you waited patiently,
First of all, I want to thank you guys for doing the program. I think there's a lot of questions and it's very hard to pour through the reports. And
Will you tell us who you are?
oh, you have to give your name, please.
An address.
Lainey Kerr, 27 Corey Road. So yes, thank you for doing the program. I think we're long overdue for a lot of community-wide information. You said something tonight, Bob, I didn't catch, at the October 6th meeting in a question answer between a resident and yourself. The question was asked, what point is the project set in stone? The answer was, it's not a sure thing yet, it's only in the study phase.
Right.
Who would be voting on the extension, and/or how will it be decided? It can be considered by the selectmen, go to a town meeting, or referendum if it is of enough interest and significant to the town. Tonight, you said something about the DOT making decisions. At this meeting, at the October 6th meeting, we were under the impression that no decisions were being made, that when the decision time came, that it would be the Board of Selectmen, a town referendum, or a town meeting. And at this meeting, the only information we had was the PowerPoint that was presented in January 2015, which still had choices.
Right.
Painted lines, the New Jersey barriers on 44, and going back through the information, playing catch-up just since the January 7th meeting, clearly decisions were made in the interim. The New Jersey barriers were taken away, not in the preliminary design. It looks like there was communication in some of the selectmen meetings in the interim about maybe doing the wooden barriers. So decisions are being made as we're moving forward with Bolton's design plan. No painted lines, we're going to use the paved path. And it's very, very confusing. Is at this point, is this something that you can say, you know what, Board of Selectmen are deciding we're not doing the paved path, that it's not safe, that it's not good for economic development, that, this isn't the proper, one of our most dangerous roads isn't the proper place for this kind of thing? Do you have the power to make that decision?
No, the only way we have the power, if we as a board, were to move forward and apply for grants to do whatever project we wanted on that, the bike trail, whatever, then that becomes our decision with cooperation of DOT. But DOT, eventually, when they redo the road and they make a proposal on it, then, like, very similar to what they did on the extension, when it came down through here, it was DOT design, but in conjunction, they did work with us on that. So we don't know where they're going to be at that stage of the game. Our intent was to do this so we know what's out there, so if and when the state is ready to move, we can begin this. The study committee has not even made a proposal to the selectmen at this stage of the game.
Who's the study committee? The Trails
The
Committee?
Trails
Trails
Committee. And actually, several of those things that you noted were things from DOT or in discussions with DOT as to what they would require or what they would permit to be done.
Yep.
And some of that is the barriers or no barriers and what they support, because whether it's on the road or in their right-of-way, they have to approve whatever moves forward.
I think our basic plan, Laney, is that we have a pool of grant money, and we would like to use, that grant money has to be used for a trails-related project, because that's the way it was granted from the DEP under the recreational trails program. So
Can you give us that amount again?
Sorry?
Can you give us that amount again?
Sure,
what
the
grant
original
was?
$71,899.36.
Original amount, has it grown since?
No, that was we got that in 2010.
So
Did you
that's-
see my Facebook post? I don't know if you did.
There's been a lot of
Well, it
information
was
kind of
really the only one I
swirling.
posted in the last few days. And I gave a brief history, but that's okay. 2010 is when we received that grant. And so we started, and that was originally meant to be spent on the trail that you see that's now
Yes, I did-
moving
I
from
did read that.
Manchester this way. And then when the state came in and said, no, we're going to fund that, we still had that $71,000, and we said, what else could we do with that? And we couldn't have it go for buying books or to buy tires. That had to be a trails-related project that we could use that money for.
But that's the total amount of the
71
grant for all of this BSC.
For everything.
Right,
Yes. Right.
$71,899.
And the town's commitment for matching is
20% of that.
20% of
And
that.
that was in our time and efforts.
And the 20% can be contributed by time. And most of that, most of the town's 20% match has come in terms of our hours. And we go by, each of us has a different volunteer rate. We either have a volunteer rate or we have an employee rate, depending on who the committee member is.
A volunteer rate, meaning you're getting paid for the volunteer time?
Yeah,
through
well, I
the
mean,
grant?
Well, it's an offset. We don't get the money, but it considers as our contribution.
So to date, very little actual cash has been spent by the town of Bolton. I mean, it's like less than $5,000
But cash and
in kind.
time
services.
spent by town employees has been spent.
Yeah, so
Town
Joyce-
employees
And-
and the other members.
Joyce, I'll
Yes.
take it. So Joyce has a certain rate, Lance has a certain rate, Bob and I have a certain rate that's set by the IRS because we're considered volunteers in this capacity. And I keep a very close track of the hours spent, and we submit that on a regular basis to DEP, and that's considered the town's match. So very little cash has been spent. Most of it's been in our time.
Do we have a record of, since the life of the grant,
Yep.
how much, a breakdown like we would do for,
Yep.
like, the Board of Ed
We
line
have
hours?
to. That's part of our submissions.
Okay, last question. I sent an email to Patrice last week, and you touched on this, addressed to the Director of Community Development, the Bolton Board of Selectmen, and the Bolton Trails Committee, and then found out that it didn't make its way to the Board of Selectmen. If we have concerns we want to address, just like to the Planning and Zoning or any other board, on this matter, how do we do that and get that all the way through and not have to go through this filter of being, done in this lump sum.
It's not being filtered, we're collecting it as a whole.
Okay?
Instead of sending 20 emails in a day to each of the selectmen.
But is that the norm, that 20 emails in a day are
Just
coming in
because-
about the trail?
Right now, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Believe it or
We've
not.
got a large
it's-
volume, and we've
it's-
asked it to
yes,
put it together so we can,
Yes.
so we can have all sides of the, of the data that's coming in. We have
I've received
significant-
about 6 to 10 of them, so I don't know if there's still 10 out there that I haven't seen, but I've seen quite a few.
Yeah,
Because several of them will have a response, and then they have a response back, and then another response back. You know, some of them are multiple of the same individual even, but that is just because the Trails Committee set a date for public comment, to get your comment in, and that's how it was set up at that January 7th meeting
right, and all that, and the cutoff date was Monday.
today.
I
Today.
certainly don't have a problem with you emailing me
No.
directly if you don't want to go through whatever filter your email is going through.
I just wanted to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen, and I didn't know how to do that. I couldn't find your emails online like the
They're-
Board of Ed or...
They're not online because there's an issue with that, with the emails being monitored, which I brought up before. And once
Well,
we get that
that's-
issue solved, then I would love to have my email on the town website. But I'm not going to do that until we solve that other issue. But if you would like to email me directly at any time using my personal email, you're welcome to do that.
Thank you.
Joyce, when can we expect to receive copies of the correspondence that Patrice has gotten?
I would guess, I think we're still getting some comments in, even though the deadline was set. I would guess that by the end of this week, that will have pretty much finished. So then within, I don't know Patrice's schedule, but within, my guess would be 2 weeks after that, you should have everything.
A lot of it's been sent out, but
I haven't
Somebody's-
seen, I haven't seen a
No, it's
single
just
email.
going to
No.
the Trails Committee, because
Oh,
that's
that's
who
right.
said
Right.
is going to receive the
Yeah.
comments.
That's right. Anyone else on this particular subject? Yes.
Arlene Fiano, I just need one clarification. When you wear too many hats for we got the grant, are you talking Board of Selectmen, Trails Committee, or who got the grant?
At the time that I applied for the grant, I was not a member of the Board of Selectmen. I did that as just a volunteer for the town of Bolton. And I...
So it is the town of Bolton? though.
It's
Yeah.
on
Yes.
behalf of
Okay.
the town of Bolton,
Right.
yes. Thank you for asking me
Yeah,
to clarify
yeah.
that.
So, there are a couple of dates that, just to remind everyone, informational dates, and one of them is February 29th, and that is, Barbara, could you just mention that again, please, so I get it correct, now that you're here? Or
Sylvia?
Sylvia? Yeah, please.
So that, there's a group of us in town that are planning an event we mentioned last week briefly. It's called Tales from the Trails. It's bringing in an invited speaker, Craig Della Penna. He is a realtor and has been working in this kind of field of promoting and understanding the concerns and benefits of multi-use trails, smart growth, connected communities, all the benefits that come along with moving forward and making these kind of links. And he will talk to those experiences, provide testimonials about people that live along the trails and the things that they learn through that experience of having those benefits. He will speak for about an hour, 45 minutes. We don't have the exact plan, and then following that, there will be an opportunity for a Q&A for the town people and anybody who else is coming. We've advertised this quite widely. We hope to get a number of people who are along the Route 44 corridor towns to come and learn from this experience. Craig has ridden the Hop River Trail about 15 years ago when it was just getting refurbished, and it is in one of his books about Rails to Trails. And the understanding of how those happen. He is a realtor and understands that whole side, business and property, and how that can benefit from these kinds of infrastructures in place for recreation, for transit, for practical purposes, and everything. So I encourage everybody to save that date, 2/29, and get past the word out. This is an opportunity to speak with somebody who really understands this and the implications of this. He's an expert in this kind of infrastructure development and understanding its impacts. And he's been speaking across this nation for 15 years on this topic, and we're very grateful to him that he's coming here for free to allow us to understand at a deeper level. So he will be at Bolton High School at 7 p.m. on 2/29. I will invite you all to attend, and I hope we have a big crowd there so that we can all learn from his extended experience.
Thank you.
Is that enough?
Thank you.
Well, it's a lot, it's more expansive than I would have provided, other than a time, place, and a date. Thank you.
My name is Alyssa Ginger, and I live at 1276 Boston Turnpike.
On 1276?
1276
Thank you.
Boston Turnpike.
Yeah.
I'm one house away from the Coventry line.
Okay.
I kind of have a question and a statement, so I'll work with my question. A little bit of background knowledge before my question. I looked on the CTDEP website, and I was looking at all of the Charter Oak Greenway extensions that have been put in since 2001, and I saw that it was huge, which was fabulous. I thought that it was excellent. So I took it upon myself this past week, and I called just about every single town that had this Greenway extension, just for my own knowledge. I wanted to talk to them, find out how it went, just because since it's going up 44, I wanted to do a little bit of my own research. And in every single case, they loved it. They thought that it was fabulous. I'm an avid person that I don't want the bike path. I honestly don't. And after the picture that I just took this evening, I think that it is very dangerous. And after all of the testimonials I got, everybody loved it. And the reason why they loved it is because it wasn't on a major road. All of their bike paths were at least 30 feet off of a road. The person that I just talked with this evening, his name is Mayor Dunn. He and I had a 3-hour conversation today. He is a fabulous gentleman of the town of Wolcott. If you ever have the chance of meeting with him, he's great. Just give him a call. He's hilarious. Even his Mad River Greenway extension is going off of Route 69 down there off the Mad River. It is 30 feet away from Route 69, nowhere near close to that road, because he wants it to be safe for children and families to be there. So it's going to be by the river, it's going to be scenic, because he wants it to be family friendly so that people can ride on it. What I don't understand is, how is Route 44 feasible? I understand that, yes, it's a straight shot from Hartford, but how is it safe? How did Bolton find that this was safe for our families? That is my question to you guys as parents. How is this safe? That is my question. I don't know if it's answerable, but this is my question. How is it safe?
I would answer it with anecdotal evidence from other trails that are built in other parts of the state. And I mean, I know Sylvia and Barbara are avid cyclists, and so they have a lot of experience with trails that are built along busy roads. So, so I think I would just encourage you to come to the February 29th meeting, because I cannot personally say, from personal experience, I cannot attest to safety, but also just probing your question a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So you're asking, is the trail safe from the user's point of view, not from the traffic point of view? Because we heard a lot of testimony a while ago that people were saying it's unsafe for drivers. They felt that...
Yes, no, I'm saying for users. Like this evening, I have currently right now on my way to said meeting, I have a huge tire, looks like from like a semi-rig, chilling outside my mailbox that my dad and I could not grab before we came to the meeting. Now, if I was a mom on a bike with a kid and that blew off a tire, I could be seriously injured. And that's in my front yard next to my mailbox, where the bike path is going to be. How is that safe? This is Route 44. You know, that's my question. So ponder this one. My second question for it is, and I don't know this 100% because Jenny Liz, it was a long time ago. It was for everybody. However, my beautiful next door neighbor, Mr. D'Italia, he has wonderful Quarryville rock in his yard, and they're going to have to scale that Quarryville rock back. Now, I know our wonderful engineers aren't here, but there was some talk about removing some of that Quarryville rock. Do we have any idea of, are we jackhammering that? Are we blasting that? What are we doing to remove it? And if so, I know that blasting it will affect wells, will affect foundations, so on and so forth. And according to public health code, because my well is so close to his home, studies will have to be done. Was that something that was done in the feasibility study to see how close my well was done to the Quarryville rock if it needed to be blasted, since that has to be graded back? No.
The answer, I don't know the answer
Okay.
to either of those questions, but if you, why don't you tell me Mr. D'Italia, is that his name? D''Italia? Oh, hi, okay, so, and what's your number?
It's
Your-
the address
yeah,
that we're
what's your-
trying to match.
12, so I will ask Patrice to forward that question to the BSC engineers.
Yes,
What will
because
be-
that,
how is that Quarryville rock going to be handled? That's
yes,
the
because that
question.
severely impacts drinking water then for that area of the town.
And just in general, right by Quarry Road, there is some rock there that has to be addressed, but how that was going to be addressed was also going to take some core sampling. So my guess would be, it would be kind of a similar thing there, but again, we'll go back and check with BSC.
Just in case, just because I know my well and his property line, they are very close friends. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Sarah Zalewski, 1020 Boston Turnpike. Speaking of safety for the users of the path, when the study was done and they talked about the number of accidents, was a different kind of accident considered during that? I have seen myself at least 2 accidents that I can think of where the drivers went off the side of the road. My husband's accident, one of the cars ended up going off the side of the road too. And I'm just really concerned if people are there 5 feet from the road, was the kind of accident considered?
I think it was. I think there's a whole chart in the back of the report.
That's
that-
not published online.
The report is not online?
That, if there's a part there that addresses that, that's not online.
Okay, then I will make sure that you get a copy of the appendix. It has a whole traffic study, and I believe the accidents were broken down, what type
None of the
accidents.
appendices were published online.
Okay,
Yeah,
then, and
The
you're,
accidents are broken down by the type of accident, but they may not, distinguish between somebody running off the road or just hitting a pole or,
yeah.
I'm just wondering how many of those involve cars leaving the roadway.
Yeah, it might not break it down
I
that
don't- I-
I don't
finely.
know that it would
I-
be that detailed.
doubt if, because most of that data is from the state police records we have on that, and I don't think they detail it that much. We'll check on it for you.
Make sure to send
Yeah.
it to you, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point. That's always been, that's, and I think it's important that everyone realize that we as a board really haven't dealt with this issue yet. But, to give you an example, when the last section of the trail that connected from Manchester down to the commuter parking lot was in the works and being designed, and the DOT design came up with a plan that, quite frankly, we felt was quite unsafe, where we basically were crossing over Route 6. And, yeah, I mean, that's a death trap waiting to happen, and we spent months in meetings and saying, no, safety is our prime issue, we're gonna redesign this, and they said they couldn't. Well, obviously they did, and they would. And the reason why I even mention that is because I want you to know that your safety issues concerned are important, and they do make a difference. When we, either as a town and town board, when these projects get to a point where they're actually seriously being considered, these are paramount issues, and they do drive what you do. And it does make a big difference. The safety issue is an incredible issue for everybody. Those people that utilize it, and the you know, you are a homeowner, your house is, I know your house, it's right there, and you have the crown of the hill, you got all those issues. And the other thing, one of the issues that we talked about, and talked about it today, is that anything that's done there, it's in the multimodal concept, has to be part of a total road reconstruction, because what you do now is too fast, and you don't have escape routes. There are a number. I mean, these are just basic traffic issues I've dealt with for a long time. I've recognized them. We know they're there, and these are issues that if they can't be addressed, well, then it will become. I'll be candid. The state will turn it into as part of transportation rather than recreation. And transportation is you ride. If you're going east, you ride eastbound. You go west, you ride westbound, and you're on the end of that street, just like any other mode of transportation. But I'll leave it at that. Yes, Sylvia, I'm sorry. I don't want to get off topic here, but.
Sylvia, do I have to say my name again? Sylvia Onpu?
No.
Okay. I just want to
I'll have you right after that.
speak to the safety issue, and I totally agree that safety is the key issue right now. Currently, on Route 44, because there is no other way to be, there are people walking. There are people walking with strollers. There are people biking for recreation. There are people biking to commute, including 2 of our Bolton veterinarians that live in Coventry who bike to work. There are other people that commute further east or westward. There are kids on skateboards on Route 44. These people are trapped in this area, and kids need freedom to move around. They are not able to get through the park and the Indian Notch Park because they're not allowed to cross the dam. So kids move around. My daughter was a runner at Bolton High School for 4 years and ran on 44 just because she'd run distance to get out into neighborhoods. That was the only way for her to go. I'm not going to drive her a quarter of a mile or half a mile. She needs her independence. She's going to run. So people are using that right now it's very unsafe. And putting a pathway that's a little bit off the road will improve the safety substantially for the people that are using it now. And the safety issues are huge right now. And with some of the traffic calming, road changes, light changes, left-hand turn signal up to Quarry Road, a speed limit change needs to be reduced. There are a lot of sections of Route 44 between here and Yukon where the speed limit is less than 40. It all goes up and down. We need to reduce the speed limit. We need to reduce the lane size. All those things need to happen to make this a safety less or more safe than what it is right now. And I have a photograph. This is Route 10. This is the Farmington Trail that has been built. I've ridden this many times with other people in this room. This is an example of what this can look at. It is a lot better than what we are doing right now in terms of safety. I can put this on Facebook, and I'd like to pass it around. This is an example of what this could look like. This is a lot safer than riding on a shoulder that doesn't exist.
It's gone away.
I don't want to cut you off, Sylvia, is that,
That's fine, I'm done.
okay. Yes, ma'am.
I thought one of us here.
My name is Catherine Peacock. I live at 23 Quarry Road. I have a comment or two and a question. My comment as far as safety is those people are choosing to do whatever it is they're doing on Route 44. That's their choice. If you put a path in, you're inviting people to use that now. It is my understanding that the path is going in before any any of the lane sizes, extra lights? Am I not correct?
No, you're not correct.
Okay,
Apparently, maybe not making the statement clear, but as we had discussed, that whatever is done, whatever project is done there is part of a total reconstruction and realignment of 44. That includes turnouts, whatever lighting they do, and the shrinking of the road width. All of those issues would be a part of whatever comes out.
well, at the informational meeting, it was my understanding that the path was going in before any of that was going
No,
to be
no,
done.
just the
That was
opposite.
part of the traffic and DOT and a completely separate issue.
No, it's just the opposite. I mean, we, in our discussions, I'm talking, I can't talk for the board, and Gwen can confirm what we're talking about. In our discussions in the committee, one of the issues we saw, and even in the study, they mentioned that the dampening, the shrinking of the width of the highway, of the various lanes is critical, and that's one of the issues. But in our discussions, outside of that, we also felt that this project has to be a part of the overall highway changes, because there are more issues than just dampening that. There's crowns, there's center lines that have to be shifted. That's just a minute part. Turnouts, and where do you stop that?
Okay.
And since, and I'll go back one step further, and since this project to move forward would have to be a state project, state-funded, state project, it would have to be a part of that whole 44 realignment fixture. And why we even mention it is because we know that when they do it, now, and I would say somewhere in the next decade, I mean, this is far out, because you're going to have a study period, and then they're going to have to figure out where it sets in this pyramid of funding, then it gets funded and then gets bid out. In that process, there's multiple hearings in the various communities. This will impact from Bolton to Mansfield.
Which is exactly the beauty of the fact that this next-gen Connecticut project has come around at the same time that Bolton is looking at this one segment.
So then what is the missing link that everyone is talking about?
The missing link is, that's interesting that name appeared somehow on Facebook. The missing link is the section between the pond and Quarry Road.
Notch Pond.
That was originally scheduled to be part of the trail that you see now.
At the Old Mansfield Drive-In,
No.
Bolton,
Bolton
right.
Pond. Bolton Notch Pond.
Indian Notch.
No, Bolton Notch Pond, where
Where the commuter parking lot is, where Route 6 turns off
Okay.
384.
By the old
Okay.
Manchester Drive-In.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I meant, yes,
Oh, okay.
Manchester,
Yes,
sorry.
right there, yeah.
from there to Quarry Road, and that was originally slated to be part of the trail that you see being constructed now.
Right.
But it's got such heavy technical challenges that DOT said, we're going to consider the end of our current project at the commuter lot. We're going to make the pond to Quarry Road a separate project. We've got to design that separately because it's so close, the highway's so close to the edge of the hill, and so that's a separate project. And that's what has been called, it has arisen as the missing link. But that is in design, and DOT is currently working on that design.
And one of the issues that has evolved is currently, there's really no way of getting from point A to point B, getting over to the Quarry Road area. What would have to happen there, and what we have suggested is you redo the entire intersection. That's the biggest safety issue, even though there's issues on 44, the biggest safety issue in that area is that intersection. The number of accidents that occur, and
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
it is, right. And we have been, for years, prodding and doing whatever we could. It has finally become, I use an analogy, if there's a bucket list to be done, okay, this thing is started, it is now a slip of paper on the bottom of the bucket, but is now before one of the agencies to be looked at. We did, the town, through grant funds, actually did a study where we actually worked with our engineers and preliminary design an intersection change. Oh, okay, we'll recess for 30 seconds before, and having an overpass coming around and realigning that whole intersection so that the traffic pattern would be considerably different and eliminate that horrendous intersection. As part of that, at that point, then a bridgeway would be available to get from the rails to trails, which travels the old rail line right along there, to get over to the other side of the highway. Until that can happen, nothing will happen on the 44 side, because without that interchange correction, the state will not fund a bikeway that begins nowhere and effectively ends nowhere, even their own funding. So that's an integral part of it, and that's the most complicated part and most expensive part of this project, and it's at the beginning stages.
But they are still looking at it. I mean,
Well, they are designed, they're
Yeah.
looking to design it, in
They mean
I am,
DOT.
yeah, I am the pessimist on this
I'm
one.
the
And Glenn
optimist.
is the optimist, so, but my pessimism says, just knowing the land, knowing what's there, there's no way you can get from that point to Quarry Road and meet the requirements for spacing, pitch, and everything else under today's regulations, unless we do the entire intersection. So that's where we are.
I have one other question, and I don't mean for it to sound confrontational.
You can
But
make
it's
it
gonna
sound
come-
any way you like.
Well, but I don't want it to be confrontational. I know it's going to come out sounding that way, but I didn't know how to ask it. You said the Trails Committee started all of this, applied for the grant. I'm not sure what it was supposed to be used for at the time. My question that is going to sound confrontational is this: how is it that a committee has such power, for lack of a better word, and caused such turmoil in this town over something that was not, we were never asked if we wanted this. And I understand the state and, all of that, but the residents of Bolton, to the best of my knowledge, were never asked if we wanted this trail. We never asked grants to be applied for. We never asked for a pathway to be thought of on Route 44. How is it that a committee has that much power? There are other committees in Bolton. There are business committees, there are school committees, there are other recreational committees. Nobody seems to have the power that has been shown by the Trails Committee.
The Trails Committee was really the conduit that did it. It had to be approved by the entire Board of Selectmen. We're not going to pass the buck.
But she wasn't part of the Board of Selectmen when she applied for the grant.
Well, Gwen simply wrote it, but the town was the body that actually applied for the
And the
grant.
actual, the intent of the grant that I applied for originally was the trail that you see being built now. It wasn't this segment. It was for that Manchester to Bolton
Okay, so
segment.
where did the idea come from?
After DOT took over the design of that part of the trail, we still had $72,000 sitting here that we could use for a trail-related project. As I said, it had to
So-
be a trail-related project.
Couldn't you have done something with the trails that are already in Bolton? Why did it have to be this on Route 44? Why did it have to be such you're basically pulling the rug out from people. I don't get it.
Of course, we didn't go into it thinking that was what
But you
was
had to
going-
know you've been in Bolton long enough to know the properties on Route 44 and how close they are to the road.
But our mindset was, let's look at how we can continue to extend the East Coast Greenway Trail System. And that,
Without asking the residents of Bolton if they wanted it.
we're thinking big picture, and we were thinking of where we're located in relationship
I understand
to
that.
Yukon.
But
and
you
to
still
Hartford.
should have asked. It should have been asked of the town. You guys are very fond of studies, so why wasn't a study done or the question asked, an email put out? We have this extra money, we were thinking of this, what does everybody think? What gave you the right to go ahead and just do it? That's not fair. And and to be very honest with you, the transparency and the information from the Trails Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the town residents has been extremely lacking.
And I agree that in this town, it's very difficult to get information, and in my...
We're getting off on a, if you want, a political sidetrack, but
In my Facebook post, I mentioned that I've been maintaining a trail advocate email list for about 8 years, and I've done everything.
But I'm not a trail
Or a
advocate.
trail person interested in the trail, and I welcome
Yes, I'm interested in the rail trails that are already here.
I was just saying that that's been my personal attempt to spread information, because I would like to get more information out about.
So my point
about-
again is not everyone is as like-minded as you. So if we're not as like-minded as you, we're not going to get the information. It should have been on the town website. Filter it out through the schools, for God's sakes. We get 8 million emails and paper from the schools on a daily basis. It could have gone out that way.
I would suggest, if you're not currently signed up for the Bolton Bulletin, which is an email newsletter that goes out, that you sign up for that.
Is there information that goes out through that?
Yes.
I will do that then.
And look, before you go, you bring up a point that, it's obviously that we did not communicate to you, or I obviously didn't, to the residents.
It's not
in a
just
way
you,
that-
Bob.
Well,
It's not
but-
just
but
you.
know what? Well, when you sit here, you take the responsibility. But, obviously, we did not communicate what was going on and what our intent was. I hope you understand the intent of the committee and the board was not to be in an adversarial position. What we were trying to do is, we thought we could look at something that might enhance the town itself, because the north end of town is disconnected, the highway has segregated us. It has since that highway came in. And then the thought was perhaps this was a way we could add a little more connection between the towns. That was one of the initial driving forces. And it was, and we were looking for it in a positive way. And obviously, as this evolved, there's been a lot of comments for folks on there who felt that what we did was stick a burden on you, and not as we were hoping to do is to better your life, not make it worse. I mean, it was never our intent to make your life more miserable. I mean, even though it may sound like it, but it wasn't. And this board and the previous boards. And if we misstep, we obviously apologize for that. That was never our goal. And we hope from here on in, we can, just by our communications and how we move forward, we can deal with any issues that you have on this.
So where do we
It's
go
not a-
from here?
When we go from here, we're going to finish up. We're going to do the survey so that people can utilize that data. And then at that time, the committee will actually make a suggestion to the board as to what do you want to do with this study. And the board, and then that's when we'll open up once again. It may well be that this thing gets shelved.
So at that point, given the history, will the townspeople be asked to what their opinion is? Will we be able to have some kind of input?
Well, that's the idea, is to do that before this board makes a decision on it. Right now, there has been no decision. There's been it was a, quote, feasibility study. Can it be done? It's not will it be done, are we going to do it? It's can it be done?
Okay.
And it has not gone beyond, can it be done? And I know, and the folks that would like to have it done, you know, the reality is, the town has no funds, and the state is, well, you know, you listen to the news, you know where we are fiscally.
Yeah.
And nothing's going to move forward unless it's part of an overall highway project. And that's where we are.
So a lot of this commotion could have been caused for probably nothing, possibly nothing.
Well, correct.
So
You're right.
Which goes back to my
I won't say
point.
nothing. I have to admit that it will happen. When it's going to happen, or what will happen, could be, it could be a decade away, it could be even further. But, you know, our goal was to try and get in front of it, not in back of it. Barbara, I'm sorry.
No.
All right.
No,
I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
And-
you.
and Barbara, then, yeah. And then we're gonna cut it, so we can go off on our meeting.
Just quickly, Barbara Amodio.
Yep.
I just wanted to say that, in fact, the Board of Selectmen was charged to find a way to connect our community. I sat on the Vibrant Community Initiative 2 years ago. We were on it for 6 months. It was widely attended, widely publicized, and the charge to the board was to connect the community. So probably not publicized well that this is one of the ways that you found and you were looking at it, but you were charged with it. We did have a committee. It was publicized. There are no secrets. We're up here well in advance so people can have input into it, and I thank you for being here to let us have our says. So, and I hope you come on the 29th to the meeting and hear again and get every bit of information that you can get everywhere, here, there, and everywhere.
Yes, and then, sir, this gentleman was up before you, if that's okay? Thank you. Yes, you go ahead. Yep.
Hi, Jim Adams, 48 Stonehenge Lane. Just want to make some comments on the safety issue and also the idea of commuting along that Route 44. I do commute on that road by bicycle, and it is my choice to do that, but it's also my legal right to do that. The roads in Connecticut are designed and are supposed to be designed to be safe means of travel for cars and bicyclists. And there are laws and there are statutes in the state of Connecticut that say how bikes are to operate on those roads with the cars. So that road is a legal means of transportation for a cyclist, and right now it is a very unsafe situation. And that's why I support a bike path like this. It's why I would support a bike path like this anywhere, because it does make a significant improvement for the safety of cyclists who are legally exercising the right to travel to work the way they choose on a bicycle, or for pedestrians to get out and enjoy it. And it would be a very, I think, very beneficial thing for the Bolton community to have that. That's what the concept was when it originally was conceived of. Is this something that could be an embellishment to that section of town? And I believe it would be very significant. I lived there for 25 years, raised kids trapped back there on South Road and Route 44 with no way to get down to the old toy store that used to be at the Notch, or get down to the hardware store, unless we hiked through the woods. There was the only way we would get there. But we certainly would never allow our kids to go walk along that road, and certainly never bicycle along it. So that's why I support this trail and the concept like this, with all due respect to the local landowners there that don't share my vision.
Yes, sir.
I'm Mark Renner. I'm at 1276 Boston Turnpike.
1276.
I just want to make a statement. I've been here since 1999. We moved here from Baltimore. We moved into a community like our own in Pennsylvania, where we used to live. Small town, small community, rural. Over this time period, I have seen numerous accidents in front of my house. Numerous. By Yukon students who have been driving at a huge rate. A dump truck that came past my house drunk, smashed into the back end of a pickup truck, flew the pickup truck into the yard next door. I have watched numerous accidents outside of my house. I have seen numerous accidents trying to get home. It is a huge issue, very unsafe. As my daughter said tonight, we came home, there was a tire in my front yard. Very dangerous. Grew up here, my kids grew up here. I don't feel this is a feasible study. I think someone forgot to ask us who live there. Someone forgot to canvass Route 44, those of us here, and ask us how we felt about this safety issue. I bike it, I did. It's unsafe. It needs to be fixed. Right now, the traffic has increased by 200%. Has anybody checked that? Okay, it is an issue. UConn uses our road as their main intersection to get back and forth. Buses, semis, cars. No matter what you do, it's unsafe. And I hope you understand that. Big issue to me. Take the front 20 feet of my front yard, but I don't want to see one person killed, which is going to happen. Someone's going to get killed. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. If there's no further comments, we'll move on to next order of business. Thank you all. Thank you. And feel free, if you'd like to leave, you're not interrupting us. I'll just recess for about 2 minutes.
Kim Welch, 51 Vernon Road, here as Lake Commissioner tonight. I just want to let you guys know, I am an avid cyclist, so I want the trail too, but I wanted to let you know the water level is raising pretty rapidly right now, if that hasn't clicked in as common sense kind of thing with some of the melt off from the ice that's out there and so forth, but I am getting inquiries about that, why the water's raising so fast. It's melt off rain. The boards on the outlets are set, and there's quite a bit of flow going now. So I just want to let you know that we're up almost within probably 8 inches of where we were when we started the drawdown.
Good.
So we've come up quite a bit, and I just wanted to give you feedback. And I also took a little bit of initiative to help some folks on Linwood to learn about the aspect and negativity of feeding the seagulls.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
seagulls.
I heard about that.
There were some folks feeding seagulls there, so I took the initiative to go over and do a little bit of educating with them to ask them to not do that. So I just wanted to share that with you as well, that we've asked folks to not feed the seagulls there. They're actually more detrimental than the Canadian geese, if you
Yeah,
can
that was a
imagine
huge
that.
flock they had there.
Yeah.
Kim, I have one question.
Yes.
What's the color of the lake? Is it okay?
It's covered with ice.
The color is greenish, yeah.
But is it actually frozen over yet, or is it?
No,
pretty-
it's quite a bit open still right now.
thought.
Yeah, especially with this warmer weather this week. It's still quite, I would guess 40% open probably.
Yeah, that's one of the issues. They haven't been able to get out there to do ice
Yep.
testing like we did last
Yeah,
year. The
yeah.
ice just hasn't been safe at all this year.
Right, especially coming off the launch where they'd come from.
Right. It's just-
Yeah, on our side, it's been
Your
ice
side,
for
yeah,
quite a
yeah,
while.
you
It's
probably
been,
got some decent ice there.
yeah, but, otherwise, there hasn't
They
been a
can't get out
good sustained ice cover anywhere else on the lake. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know about the seagulls as well. Anybody else have any questions for me?
But you're the person, I heard about that, and they said,
about me?
I wasn't sure who did it.
Was it positive or
Oh,
negative?
no, it was good. No, because somebody, and that's with the seagulls.
Yeah.
He said, but someone went out there and explained to them that what harm it does to the lake.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
once you stop feeding them, they'll take off, they'll go.
Yeah, when they don't have the source.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tried to explain that as well. So that's our latest initiative out there.
Keeping seagulls away. Get that eagle back there, it'll keep them away.
That's what I tell everybody, that'd be my preference.
That's the Lower Bolton Lake status report, so, thank you. FY16 budget, have a copy there of where we are. Anybody has any questions on it?
We're currently 50.49% expense compared to last year at 50.14% expense.
Right in line to where we should be at this stage of the
Right in
game.
line.
Where the difference might change if we have continue to have a mild winter in the next,
Yes, the only,
Next couple of months will make a difference.
and the only thing that can possibly hurt us there is when you contract for salt, you contract for a minimum and a maximum, and you have to at least buy that minimum or pay a penalty. So we'll see how much we can stock up.
You can store it in the shed, though,
Yeah,
so.
level it out.
Well, I think
But we try to
Yeah.
start
We always do.
out with it being fairly full, so
It's happened once.
we'll see.
But on the FY17 budget, we've begun our workshops and moving along. Got anything else on that, Joyce?
Yes, I just got this
Thank you.
from actually from the assessor tonight, actually, on the grand list. We did file, we did not ask for an extension, the grand list, to go on down. And 1%.
One for, I'm sorry.
We did not file for an extension, which this is actually the first year that we have not filed for an extension for I don't know how many eons. But the grand list numbers were done. We're looking at a 0.13% overall increase. The only thing that I would remind you of is that the grand list last year, we did an adjustment of $700,000 off of it when we prepared the budget because we knew of corrections that occurred. So that 700,000 had to be made up first to even get back to that $429 million mark.
I'm a little confused, so I imagine anybody listening to this might be confused. The $429,404,225 is the grand list unadjusted or adjusted?
Unadjusted
Okay.
last fiscal year.
Okay, so then on top of that, we had some adjustments that needed to be made and were made and are reflected in the $429,972,628. So our .13 overall increase is actually higher once you factor in that $700,000.
Correct.
Okay.
It is actually,
Thank you.
it is actually .3. So
Thank
it's a little bit better. I did that
Yeah,
math.
not a lot, but
No, but
it's,
No, but it's better than it was.
yep. Thank you, Joyce.
No problem. So this is just hot off the press, though, from her. Certainly, one of the things that you probably have heard about is the DMV and the motor vehicles list. There might be some minor adjustments. We had some long discussions as to how that may have impacted Bolton. We made what corrections we knew, but being a small town, it was easier for us than a town the size of Hebron or Coventry to try to go back and look at how accurate the motor vehicle list was. But there'll still be some other corrections, but motor vehicle is a small piece of the big pie. So it should not amount to much from what I'm being told. The only other thing that I would share with you is that actually our assessor, Mary Huda, was named Assessor of the Year for 2015.
Excellent. Well, on behalf of the board, give her our congratulations.
Bob,
Yes.
can I make a request here?
Please.
It just kind of flows because of what we're talking about right now, and what I'm looking at. Can we make it a point to put things in fiscal year versus calendar year, the way we write them? Like the top of this says 2014. To me, that's a calendar year.
All right.
And it's extremely confusing as you start looking through records of what you're talking about. This is actually fiscal year, the first date up top is fiscal year 13-14 or 14-15.
Not really.
No.
It's an assessment year, which
Well,
is
I realize that, but where I'm getting into is a whole big thing, to be very specific
Yes.
when we talk calendar year versus fiscal year versus, if you even make a note on it, assessment year, whatever you want to do, so that when you look back in these records, you can recreate the history. And
Yes.
as I've tried to come up to speed on the board and
Yes.
reading our history, it's extremely confusing because you have no idea whether you're talking a calendar year or a fiscal year on a lot of the things that I go back and look through. And I think it's something we have to be extremely careful about so that we can recreate this stuff. And even a year gone by, it's hard to recreate it.
No.
So I would ask that whenever possible, we do fiscal year or any other designation that we can give things. And if I see 2015, I'm going to assume it's calendar year, unless I see something else that says fiscal year, assessment year, or other designation. To me, that's a calendar year, 2015.
Right. And the grand list is always in October. It doesn't follow either one of the others
Right, but.
at all.
you know,
So
once-
I understand.
Once
and-
it's listed
Yes.
there, then we can go back and
Yes.
reference it in a specific time period, where this tells me it's not a grand list year or a fiscal year, it's just 2015. And I think that is January to December.
Mm-hmm.
My own little pet
No,
peeve.
One of the issues of the small amount is that we have a couple of large construction projects that won't hit until next year.
Right.
October 1st next year should be a little, that alone should make it better. And there's a number of residential properties, too, that aren't on this, at least in their completed stage. But still,
The only other information on next year's budget, the FY17, would be that the governor's budget comes out tomorrow. From everything we're hearing, we're anticipating that his budget will reflect probably a 5 to 10% cut in municipal aid. For us, it depends on where that cut is made as to if it's really winds up being 5 or 10% less or more, because most of our money is education. If he doesn't touch education, it doesn't have as great of impact on us. So we'll have to wait and see tomorrow.
Rumor mill said no cuts to education.
right.
Right, so that's why I'm saying, other than education, we don't really get a lot of money from the state.
You can't get $500 million without touching everything.
They already
It's
made.
not going to happen.
Right, but they've
It's-
made some adjustments current year to education, so,
Well, the governor's office indicated that education was the one area that they were going to leave alone and go after everything else.
And we've seen what happened with hospitals and things like that,
Yeah.
so it's,
Well,
there's not going to be anything off the table with
Well, I know,
$500 million.
Yeah, well, basically, it's the game, we'll make the legislature make those other
Right.
decisions, is where we are, but this is our start point, and God knows what's going to come out of this thing. Anybody have any question on the budget? Item E is, speaking of budget, is consideration and act upon budget referendum date.
and this is annually done by this board, normally in January or February, because the Board of Finance plans its entire schedule backwards
Based on that.
based on the referendum date by the charter. So I did contact the Register of Voters for their input, and the way that Memorial Day hits this year, they would recommend holding the first one on May 10th from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the town hall. That would give 2 weeks without hitting Memorial Day, still in May, if another referendum were necessary.
That's in line where, what we've done in previous years, it's within that 4 or 5 day time.
Joyce?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's a Tuesday.
So moved, how's that? We'll start there.
Second, third.
Motion made to set the town budget referendum for May 10th. That's Tuesday, the hours of 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
At the town hall.
at the town hall. Motion's made seconded. Any further comments? If none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And motion carries. Item F, 6F, consider an act on Code of Ethics implementation plan.
Bob, is it appropriate now to bring up a motion about the makeup of the board? Or should we do that under,
Right now, it'd be, we can do it now or after our discussion, whichever. You can bring it up now.
why don't I bring it up now, and then we can discuss it.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that it be the policy of the Board of Selectmen shall be that members of the Board of Ethics cannot serve on any other town board or commission, elected or appointed, be an employee, nor be a consultant to the town, and the reference to town shall include the Board of Education.
1 second? Discussion.
I continue to be opposed to this. I think there's some valuable expertise that the town has of people serving on boards and commissions. I would support a similar situation that we eliminate Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Education members, but I cannot support the motion as it currently stands.
And when you think about it, somebody who serves on an existing board or committee probably has a good feel for how those boards work, and they might even be more sensitive to a potential ethics conflict than somebody who has not served on a board before. So I agree that the three selectmen, education, finance members should not serve on it. But I don't have a problem, somebody on the library board serving on the ethics commission. I just don't,
That's a good example. The library board does deal with funds, and I believe that this needs to be a completely impartial committee. This is the one place where impartiality is the most important thing here, where you're overseeing, you can't oversee yourself. And it's just my feeling. I think that this, like you have a strong feeling one way, Sandy, I have a strong feeling the other way, that this needs to be a completely impartial board that can do what it needs to do without being tied to any other committee or anything.
Mike, if,
Yeah, go ahead, Sandy, I'll Bob afterwards.
I guess another way I could support your proposal was if you also included a, for lack of a better word, drying out period, where someone who has immediately gone off a board or commission is prohibited from serving for a period of time. For example, state employees can't serve in certain positions for 2 years after they've terminated their employment. I'm not sure, I haven't really thought that through, but if you're saying you can't serve because you're currently, what's to say that you can't resign and serve tomorrow? And I think that's defeating your purpose.
It might be to a small extent, but I think as a board, we have the opportunity to appoint these people, and we can take that into consideration when we do appoint.
Well, and I think we can do that without this policy.
Well, I think I personally believe there's going to be enough people to be on this board that are quality people made up from this town that we don't need to reuse people, so to speak. And I think, should we find out down the road that, we have a hard time filling this board, then maybe we should revisit the issue. But right now, I think there's going to be plenty of people who are willing to sit on this board who are going to be completely impartial and not sit on any other board. I think until we find out that that's a problem, this is the way we should head.
How many people, Joyce, have we gotten inquiries from on this board?
We've had 4 to date. The Republicans have not discussed in their meetings who they're putting forward. The Democrats have, and we just are getting a list of all the independent voters to there's like 1,500 of them.
Of the four, are two of those the recommendations from the Democratic Town Committee?
Right. And
Yes.
the Republicans are meeting this month. and
So there are
three-
two people who have made inquiries, two other people, who I'm assuming are unaffiliated voters, or are they members of a party?
I honestly don't know. Once, as soon as you passed it within that next month, before it actually even became effective, was interested. And so I don't remember. And another one just asked for a form, so I don't, again, the form hasn't come back in.
Can I say something, Bobby?
Please.
My opinion is that this commission is a very important commission, and you can't convince me there's not 6 people in the town of Bolton that cannot be on this commission that are not on any boards or nothing. I mean, I've had 2 people call me up saying they're interested in getting on this commission. One is a doctor, and I know he's going to apply, and he lives here in Bolton. And that's just one. And then there's another person who called me who's going to apply. So there's 6 people in this town that could be on this board. And to me, that this board has to be, my opinion, squeaky clean if you're on this commission. I mean, I wouldn't want to go before the commission if some guy was on some board that he's sitting on this commission. It just gives the public the wrong opinion that if you're on this commission, you should not be on any other board because people think there is always something wrong. That's my opinion.
And I just want to say again that I think we had 2 or 3 public hearings on this matter, and this topic never came up in any of the hearings. And if it was important to the citizens of Bolton to have this restriction, I think it would have been brought up in one of those hearings. So it's not a policy I can support.
I brought it up myself originally because I felt that when we first start out, we should start out with a board that is compliant of individuals, that there isn't even a hint of possible conflict of interest. And it's all it gets down to. And if you eliminate individuals who currently serve on a board commission, as Mike's motion indicated, it just eliminates that. If the board, this board, another board in a future date feels that that they can expand and allow something come in, that's another point. But I think when we start off, I think Bob stated it, we have sufficient people who are more than qualified and of a temperament that could make a good board without having to include people who currently serve. So I would be supporting the motion. So is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries 3-2. The other item we have here is the Board of Selectmen Code of Ethics Plan of Implementation. It lays out a sequence of getting the board up and running. And we had subcommittee met, and Gwen joined us a couple days ago, and we. God.
It was yesterday.
Yes, it was.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the week I've had, it felt like it was last week, but, and we spent some time in really trying to come up with a plan that's practical, doable, and meets our goals. So this is what we've put forth. Anyone have any comments on it before we, if not, then.
I'll make a motion, we adopt this.
Second.
Seconded. Any additional comments? I'm sorry.
I'd like to move we table this to our next meeting since it was not distributed until 4:15 today, and the minutes of that subcommittee meeting have not yet been made available to those of us who were not in attendance.
They were sent out this morning, I believe.
I received this at 4:15 this
No,
afternoon.
the minutes.
I still have not received those minutes of the subcommittee.
I don't know, I didn't check it,
I don't
Joyce.
think I got them either.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I'll second that
There-
motion.
Well, there's no, we can,
You have a start of a motion already.
okay.
You
want to withdraw a motion?
If you want to table it, I'll withdraw the motion, that's fine with
We
me.
have no problem with table, we just withdraw the motion and bring it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Table it to our next meeting.
May I? rather
Withdraw your
than-
motion.
Yeah, I withdraw the motion.
But do you want to table it or by consensus agree since he's withdrawn his motion?
If he's withdrawing, that's fine. I will agree, I will withdraw my motion to
Okay.
table.
All right. So we're not taking any action on it then, so we'll have a chance to review it, and we'll bring it back up again at our next meeting. Budget transfer to,
We don't have any.
ongoing business subcommittee reports. Obviously, this was the report from the, our subcommittee.
From which subcommittee?
Finance,
I don't have any subcommittee minutes.
Heidi's very good about sending them out, so I'm not sure
Yeah, they're right here, I guess.
Yeah.
what transpired.
They were in the packet?
In the
Oh,
packet.
I didn't, they weren't
Yes,
in the
but-
packet that I got by email,
No,
because all I
correct.
got
Well-
via email was,
The meeting just occurred yesterday, so they were sent out probably mid-morning or late morning this morning.
yeah, they
Heidi-
never reached my email today.
Heidi's usually very good about sending them out, so.
No, I'm quite sure I didn't get them by email either. They were just in the group that you just handed me tonight.
That's, okay.
And I
well-
still don't have them.
oh, for 7A, you don't.
No, I do not. Joyce handed me the ethics when I asked
that's-
tonight, but I did not get,
There's the.
and the petition, but I did not get 7A.
okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
I guess I asked what you needed, but unfortunately didn't realize that
Sometimes
you
it's
didn't
tough to
have-
know what you need if you
I,
don't have it.
I apologize. Heidi's usually very good about getting the minutes out.
So we're going to act on these minutes next month? The minutes of the...
This is just
subcommittee.
information.
This is information,
Subcommittee.
just to inform what went on there. So, yeah. So Sandy, if you like to peruse them, and, we can deal with them later. Under properties and facilities, when we, as I stated earlier, we did begin the process on that study, and I know we had talked about it 2 months ago, and I said I would want to give you an opportunity to give an explanation of what it's all about. It's yours.
Community Connectivity is a
Yep.
DOT program by
we got-
which they are, the DOT is offering to come into towns and do a road safety audit on an area of town that you request. And they come in and they look at, I'm guessing that they look at things such as where lines are painted on roads, whether there is a big enough shoulder, whether bicyclists have a safe way of crossing roads, pedestrian safe way of crossing roads, traffic flows. So I had brought this to Bob's attention back in November after the program was announced in late October, and apparently an application has been filed. I'm hoping that that the application covers the center of town and also down to the intersection of Brandy Street and Bolton Center Road, because I think that we should be encouraging youngsters to bicycle to the high
Yeah,
school.
one of the what we utilized in looking at with Patrice is our center study. And our center study really, it's an expanded center. We felt that was, I thought she explained it to you, probably not. That it covers that area and more, because we have to look at center school, high school,
And everything in between.
Herrick Park, everything in between. So that end, and also we also looked at the other end of town as another section. But the key was this area here.
Good. So it's going to mesh well with the Vibrant Communities Initiative study.
That was the base of what the first thing we looked at, because it was, and it is, it's just an extension of that study. Actually, maybe an early implementation based on their recommendations.
I was just when I've been walking and cycling, actually walking and running on Hebron Road recently, I noticed that those lines are about a foot at the most off the edge of the pavement. There's no shoulder there at all. There's no lane there at all. So maybe it could be that one of the recommendations they'll make
Right.
is to restripe so that, which will have a calming effect on the traffic, and it will also give pedestrians and cyclists a little bit more of a feeling of comfort that they have a little bit of area on the edge of the road.
Yeah, I think one of the things,
One other question. Speaking about like that, Camp Meeting Road, one section there is very, very narrow. If you, Camp Meeting Road coming towards 85, the road is so narrow, I have no idea how a person riding a bike could even stay inside that white line. So maybe they'll look at that route.
State highway.
Yes.
That is so bad through there, really
Which
bad.
section of Camp Meeting are you referring to?
when you come from Shore Road up and around that curve area.
To get near the pond
Oh,
right
right
there.
by
on the
Sperry's
right-hand
Glen.
Right by
side.
Sperry's Glen,
Okay,
because you
yeah.
have the
It's
water
so
there.
narrow.
off.
Yeah, there is no
How a
shoulder.
bike can fit in there.
Yes.
And they travel that a lot. A lot of the
Yeah.
bike clubs use that.
They come from Manchester, they go over that Camp Meeting.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bob.
While we're discussing roads, can we discuss the road out front here with the improper location of the stop sign on Hebron Road? It needs to be around the corner. The idea with the whole construction, change of that intersection 20 years ago was to make it a four-way T intersection. And if you're driving a truck and you stop where the stop sign is and you look to the right, you're facing this way and a truck is blindsided on the right. You can't see down the road. So when you take off, you're taking off with no idea if there's any traffic coming up past the church. That needs to come around the corner to a T intersection as opposed to the angled that it's set with the stop sign set way back, too far back, causing people to stop on an angle and not pull straight up perpendicular in front of, right here, right in front of Town Hall.
Coming from Hebron Road.
Coming up Hebron Road, where the location of the stop sign is, you stop, you're coming in front of Town Hall like this, you're stopping back here and you can't see. You need to come around so you're perpendicular, so that a truck can look out the side. You're driving a van, a pickup truck with toolboxes or anything like that, you can't turn that corner safely. It needs to be put back where it was originally.
The stop sign has actually not been moved, but the stop bar
The stop line has
was
been, yeah.
moved back so
Yeah.
that you stop back there. What you're supposed to do according to traffic laws is then pull forward and once again basically yield.
Yeah.
But we'll talk with Lance and the town engineer.
Okay.
Lance actually said that, that people are stopping more now that that stop bar is back farther.
And then creep forward.
Yeah, well, the stop bar needs to, the idea needs to be that you can pull up because we have our troopers like to slow people down there. And people that that slow down and then move up to where they should stop have the potential of tickets. And the intersection needs to be perpendicular.
Yeah, it's restriping that stop. We'll have them look at it.
Yeah.
Well, we got a pretty good report on the farm, unless anything else is.
Yeah, I do have one other thing. While as they were taking down some of the siding for the fire repairs, some additional structural issues were discovered where some of the support, I don't think they're beams, but anyway, some of the cross members and the vertical supports were discovered to be rotten. The engineer came out, reviewed the property. The contractor and has drawn made some very preliminary suggestions, and now we're waiting for the State Historic Preservation Office because there are several options that we can take, and none of the options will be I'm sorry, if we were to take the less expensive option, we believe that it would not change the visual aspects on the interior or exterior of the barn once the siding is replaced, but we do need the State Historic Preservation Office approval to continue.
Yeah.
Puzzled, Joyce.
As long, I believe that it sits above the ceiling in the
It is.
maintenance.
In the shed, in the area where the fire started.
Oh, it's in the shed, not the main barn.
No, it's in the main barn, but in the maintenance shed, which is the area, the maintenance shed section of the barn, which is the
Okay.
area the fire started.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So it's between the roof of that room
Yeah, with a, yeah.
Yes, it's,
and
It's like-
the ceiling of the
Got it.
it's
the
like
roof
right
ceiling.
above where the doors were into
Yep.
that section.
Yep.
When the roof starts to peak, it is that member.
Oh,
Yeah, so, again, we need their approval, but the architect has made it very clear to them that it's not going to ever be visible if the barn maintains its current character.
so the guys doing repairs are gonna have to hold off on that until,
Well,
I don't, they're doing,
I'm sure they're
many
doing a
other
lot of work.
pieces of
There's,
work
there's
at
lots
this
of other things to come before we get to that
and
point.
actually, I don't believe we have asked the contractor for cost estimates. This is
No,
all
we
just
haven't.
come
We're
from
still
the
waiting for-
structural engineer
Yes.
first.
Yeah.
For the
So-
State Historic Preservation Office to say aye or nay.
Yes.
It's okay to go, okay.
The last thing on properties and facilities, the LEED certification, we have every reason to anticipate information back on the review this week from the Green Building Institute.
Well, that was the
That's
one they
what
had
they-
questions on, yeah.
Well, and it could be they approve it, it could be they require more information.
Would
We
be-
don't know until we get it, but they are basically at the end of their 30 days that they normally take for review.
Good.
Is that a state agency, the Green Building Review Institute?
They're, I don't know if they're directly associated with the state or if they are like a quasi-unit of the state.
But they have the capacity to
Yes.
say, to sign off on the LEED
Yes.
certification?
Yep.
They are the group who does it?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be a major step, we get that
Yes.
out of our,
And is that the last step before we can get the high school project closed out?
once we get the certification, yes.
That's it?
Yes. Once we get that done, we will have our final submittal of costs to the state, because this is the only part of the project that we've not paid for is the LEED certification, and we have to physically close out the financial part of it, and then the entities have to take the votes to close it out.
So it's just, then it becomes a process rather than waiting for the state to do anything. On the revenue sources, really no new revenue yet, and quite frankly, we're waiting to see what the state does, what impacts us. Under mine, in your packet, good news on the, maybe not revenue side, but expenditure side. We received a Management Achievement Award from KERMA, and I'll just read the part that's important. The town of Bolton is being recognized in the category of substantial impact on lost cost factors for the results the town's risk management initiative have made on reducing workers' compensation loss cost. As a result of those efforts, or these efforts, workers' compensation severity has been decreased by an average of 50% for each of the past 2 policy periods, with no workers' compensation incidents reported for the current policy period. And that has positively impacted our cost. So that's good for our staffing and everyone here, and everybody keep up the good work. So,
Bob, have you shared this with our supervisors so they can share that with their staff?
We will after this. We usually bring it to this board first to share.
Because
and then
I
it
think
goes
it's
out
important
like
that
this.
each and every one of them
And-
understand that they contributed to
yes,
this award.
significantly.
And where this
Good idea.
also goes is we have a joint Safety and Wellness Committee, Employee Safety and Wellness Committee with the Board of Education. And that's the group that actually reviews losses every quarter for the town and discusses how we can work to improve. And so that's also where this goes.
And that shares with the school as well, because they're a part of this too.
Yes.
So good job to all those folks. EDC, I knew Chair would be here today, and we were, we discussed this and look forward to working with them. And it's really good to see an active EDC working. Emergency notification system. We are continuing to gather information on expanding the contacts for other than landline for the residents. We've done a test and asked a response back. We've also working with the schools for them to send out requests through their using their websites and did they send
Their
anything home?
email blast.
Email blast through there, again, asking their parents for any alternative contact point that they would like to have included, so we can get back to us, input into the system. And then we will, once we get all these in place, we'll do another test and keep moving forward.
I have a question.
We just, one other thing we're working on as well. We're also working on putting together an operational manual that is understandable to humans and not a geek that just does this stuff. So basically taking what's there and revising it, thinking ahead to the future that, when you think an emergency, you never know who's going to be here and not be here. So our idea is to have more people who are familiar enough with the system to take over if the 2 or 3 people who normally run it are gone. And now, I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
I was one of the lucky people who got the test message on both my cell phone and my landline last week. It sounded like Angie, was it?
No.
Okay.
No.
The test message started, "This is a message from your organization," which
It got changed.
in my idea, it should say, "This is a message from the town of Bolton."
It got changed partway through. The person that did the test didn't realize that that's what was already in the script and didn't change that, and it got caught early on and changed as it went on through its dialing experiences.
Okay, because I got messages on I got the same message on 2 different days that said, "This is a message from your organization," and it's like, that's great. Who is my organization?
Yeah.
That's one of those blanks where your name goes here, kind of thing. They were supposed to put Town of Bolton where it says your organization.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but if that's been fixed, and
It has, yeah.
That's been fixed, and the concern was, and I certainly encourage everybody to go on the town's website to sign up for alternate means, that we have had the information from the phone book from 2014, but there's a lot of people out there whose phone numbers are not in the phone book. And so if they don't sign up, they will never receive a message from us.
And the other thing about the message was that it asked me to dial a number and then input a very, very long numeric code. Is there any way that can be shortened?
We've talked about that because, to me, the optimal is you go on the website and sign up. If you don't have that capability, then contact us so we can sign you up. And that's another thing that Wendy made the same comment, that it was this, she felt like she was writing down all these numbers.
I had to listen to the message like 3 times on my cell phone.
Because it
Like,
was a
yes,
long,
what did you
yeah.
say?
If you happen to pick it up, you could get it.
Yes, but we're trying to address that as well. What this also, we have enhanced, is there is a place on it for you to mark if you consider yourself an at-risk citizen, so that we know from emergency management perspective, we may not have identified you to date, but you can certainly put it there so that we know that. So we encourage people to go on the town's website. On the right-hand side, you will find it in the banners on the right-hand side. And basically, you go in, you create a username and your own password, and then it takes you through that you can select what your primary contact is, if it's your home phone or your cell phone, your secondary means of contact, if you want a text, if you want an email. It gives you those options to set up how you want to be notified personally for yourself. So I would encourage everybody to do it. If you have difficulties, please call us here at the town hall. We will help you get signed up. We're going to be working with staff in our various other departments, such as senior and social services and at the library. So if people come in there, they will be able to help people sign up also.
Okay. It's
My
item 9.
report. Expressway properties, the only item I have to report on that right now is in discussions with Attorney Barger. He is actually looking to see if there is a possibility. He feels that there is something in the statutes that permits the Board of Selectmen to go to town meeting to get authority to take a later action on an item. So what that would mean with the properties that off of Notch Road, the town meeting would authorize the Board of Selectmen to discontinue the right-of-way before we were given the deeds. That would keep, if the town meeting went that way and approved you, it would allow you to take that action to potentially take care of the landlocked properties. If town action would deny that, and potentially we got the land, our concern is still, would we be liable for the landlocked properties now because we hold the deeds? So more to come. They're investigating that at this point.
What's the status of the give back? We haven't heard anything from DOT or CROG in a long time.
That is, they are looking at that particular item. They have not progressed. We actually talked with John Elsesser yesterday, and they have not progressed with anything for the open space. They seem to be trying to work on the deeds for Notch Road first, and understand that for the town of Bolton, this could put us in an awkward position, because if town meeting would turn down the discontinuance, we could be liable for the landlocked properties unless
If we
we built
accepted
the
them.
road.
Right, if
Right.
we accepted them.
So, and that's the report from last month. Gwen, I know you weren't here, but it said with CROG, DOT is looking at what liability there would be on the town's end if landlocked property is not given back to the previous owners. On the electronic document management project, Town of Bolton is one of 7 towns across the state selected to participate in this. The exact parameters is not established yet, but there is, we've submitted information, whether it's land use, assessors, tax, town clerk, letters, correspondence, planning and zoning information, inland wetlands information, as to what we might be able to do as part of this project in electronic document management records rather than the habitual paper. So more to come on that as we move forward. CROG is the agency leading this. It's actually part of the incentive grant monies that was given, and it was CCM and CROG that selected the towns to participate. Legislative update. Here is actually a copy of the legislative priorities from CCM. Our other, which is the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, CROG, which is the Capital Region Council of Governments, and the Council of Small Towns, which is known as COST, are in the process of setting theirs up at this point in time. There's kind of one theme I think you'll see is trying to limit the financial impact to communities, but certainly the cap that goes into effect in a couple of years is a huge issue for all of us.
Top issue of all three agencies.
Yes.
I forgot one thing.
Okay.
And since there isn't a category for it, I guess I can put it under, whatever, revenue sources. But we're looking seriously into our lighting system, not in the building, street lights, of going to LEDs and going from a lease to a purchase using LEDs. We're getting some costs, right now in the process of getting costs. It appears that the cost savings are substantial, and the benefits, obviously the LEDs have a 10-year lifespan, and they're warranted, depending on who you go with. And one of the difference being the way we do it now, obviously, is that the operating cost is a dramatic differential. But we would have to, the town would have to have would be in charge of the maintenance of it instead of now, Eversource is. But we're looking at those numbers, and also, if initially numbers work, the goal would be is to keep our current level of payment and have that additional money go towards the purchase of the lights. So over a 2-year period, we can buy the lights and not increase our what we pay for lights. But after that, it'll be a dramatic drop once you own them. The operating cost is, fourfold difference.
The rate that Eversource charges us versus the rate if we own them is pretty drastic.
Quick question, not to be the doom and gloom person here, but how do we access those lights? We don't have the equipment.
No. We would contract out for that.
Okay.
As well, and any of the companies have various maintenance plans.
Right.
The good part for us is, right now, we could not think of any lights that we physically have in town that are not utility poles, that they're actual just lights, that everything that we can think of is on a utility pole. So we would never be responsible for the utility pole to begin with.
All responsible is that light.
Well,
The arm out and the light.
At the farm.
How about the park, with the lights at the park?
The farm, I think, has the utility running up to it, though, electricity running to it.
Correct, but
So-
it's not, I think it's a town-owned pole.
I'm not sure, and if that's true and
Then
it's on our
we would be
on our
responsible
streetlights,
for that
I'm
pole.
not sure that it's on our streetlights.
Oh, that
Yeah.
could be.
That may not be a street
I
light. Yeah, that's
seriously doubt that
Yeah,
it
that's
would-
probably on the farm light rather than street light.
Yes, that it's on
Yeah.
just a regular.
I think it's on the meter for the
How
farm.
about Hayward
Yes.
Park, would that lights include there?
No.
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Yes?
Well,
Yes.
not the field lights,
Not the field lights.
if that's what you were
The-
saying.
Yeah.
There is a street
A street light there.
Yeah.
right in the,
In the circle,
like, small turnaround,
and that's a utility pole.
and that is a
Okay.
utility pole.
Okay.
So this is preliminary, in preliminary stages, and once we're able to get some numbers and timeframes down,
I think I read within the last month or so, I think the town of Berlin did this, and they were anticipating like a $200,000 savings over 2 years
Yeah,
or
it
something.
depends on, it depends upon the number of lights. Obviously, ours are very limited. But the savings, you're right, could be substantial. But, in a tight budget, one of the things what we're looking at is how to do it, and that is to phase it in so that your initial savings for the first 2 years actually pay for the lights, so you keep it level, and then you receive huge savings.
Did you let our energy committee know about this?
I had sent an email
To the chair, yeah.
about it.
So
Who is the
they're-
chair now? 'Cause I thought
Still John.
John Muro.
Yeah.
okay.
So, as I say, we see this as, that's the way to go. And we're also concerned about, residual lighting, so that would be part of our discussions. We want to make sure we don't have a light that blinds the neighborhood, because LED lights are pretty intense, but they're good to direct. You can, with the proper shields, you can direct them to where you want and not impact your neighborhood. So it's all part of our
And what
discussions.
people don't realize, a street light's out, so they think that our usage goes down. That's not
No.
true. We're billed as if our lights are on from this time to this time, whether they are or not.
And Eversource was really never the greatest group when you call them to come out there. And they're not exactly out the next day. They might be out there the next week or week and a half, whenever they schedule it. So this would have us in a far better position in our maintenance level.
And there's actually several towns that have done this or are looking
the
at
process,
this, at the process. I had brought this to the group several months ago, and our last municipal services meeting was actually a presentation from a town that is doing it, but is also putting Wi-Fi on it, on all of theirs. They haven't quite moved forward yet with some of the aspects, because like us, they have a highway that runs through. So like for us to try to do the other side of 384 would be challenging. This town is running into some of those same issues.
And I have one last comment, and that's on Hans the Pole, our retired historian, is being honored, and just to promote it, I believe it's February 13th at Georgina's at noon. Am I correct in the date?
Yep, 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. And John Toomey can be contacted for information and tickets for that.
That is the retirement.
Yeah, it's one and the same. It is?
No.
Not anymore. He doesn't watch this anyway. so-
Oh, is it? He's probably not.
He knows about it.
No appointments. Sorry. No one told me that.
I forgot.
We adjourn.
I forgot.
Thank you.
Motion?
Yes, Sandy. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, I completely forgot.
Are you off?